do have the midterms coming up. I know our district, Tim Kennedy, safe district, but there's Nick Langworthy. I think there's going to be some attention to that race, perhaps. Do you have any thoughts on the midterms at all? Anybody?
Well, I mean, I think they're very important because we need to flip as much of, Congress as we can to Democratic. It is not a black and white issue. It's not like all Dems are good and all Republicans are bad. Although, um, maybe I feel stronger about that first statement than the second half of it. Um, but at the same time, there's certain things that are under direct attack in this country. And the rollback on reproductive freedom is a life and death issue for many people who have uteruses. And so that is something that really needs to be reversed nationally. And there's a lot of issues that, having Trump have so much control and so many people who support and buy in. We're seeing cuts to public education, especially kids with IEPs who are in special ed. There's cuts to funding for students who are experiencing homelessness, because again, that is federally funded. And then we're of course seeing this crazy war and attacks on countries all over the world. As an environmental science teacher, once we started dropping bombs in Iran, and I know that we've been dropping bombs in the Middle East for a really long time, like it doesn't end. But, you
Connect your
know,
phone. Hold on, no.
at the same time, it's like I can teach the kids to compost and
There we go.
recycle and to buy
I got it. I figured it out.
and to buy better appliances and better cars and walk and take public transit. I could teach them all that. And then you drop one bomb in Iran, and that's equal to your whole lifetime of being a vegan bike rider, recycler, right? And so, and as much as all the atrocities to humanity that go on a regular basis that our country does, what we're experiencing with climate change is such a real and present danger to all of humanity. And that's a real thing. And so midterms are going to be super important because I'd rather argue right and wrong with somebody who has morals than argue right and wrong with people who just have abandoned them.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. Now, I mean, I think that the Democrats will definitely take the House. I think the Senate might be a little bit more difficult for the Dems to take over. But let's just say, for argument's sake, that they take both the House and the Senate. What would be the first thing that you would like to see a Democratic controlled Congress do?
Um, really restore the social safety net. We have people who are losing health insurance, housing um, assistance, food stamps, WIC, disability. Like, we're really leaving our most vulnerable population to fend for themselves in a time that prices are outrageous. So, there's needs to be like so much restored so people can just live. We can't even make great choices right now, right? And if we flip Congress in midterms, we're only just restoring not even everyone's, but a lot of people's just basic ability to live and survive, right? And we need to do that. And that's probably the biggest first step that we need to do. And then we need to get out of all of this manifest destiny taking over the world and making enemies of everyone.
Yeah, I hear you. I was just saying, it seems like the Democrats will take Congress, maybe not the Senate, but let's just say they do take the Congress. Is there something you wish, Congress would do after the midterms? Like, what would be the first thing you wish Congress would do?
Um, I think, all the reproductive rights and all the cuts that have been made, all those Doge cuts and everything to all the services and um, all the ways that kids in schools don't have access to things anymore and programs have been cut and everything. There's so much, it's overwhelming to try to think about, what specific things, but it just on the broad, like, reproductive women's rights, all the language that has been cut out of, for all the DEI and removing things and the changing of the federal websites and all of that. Um, I don't know I don't know what I'd like to see happen first. I think, education and the rights on reproductive access to healthcare and things like that for people, like you've said, people who have uteruses. There's just there's so much less available, especially in states where I used to live, in Texas and Louisiana, and places where they're really, really restricting people's rights and access to things. So yeah.
Sounds good. I definitely understand your passion. Now, Eve, when I go door to door and I'm talking to the average person, a lot of people will say, well, these people don't represent me. These candidates, they don't represent me. Or they'll say, this doesn't really impact my daily life. Or, they might say, I've already tried and, in my neighborhood, there's still problems. What would you say to somebody like that who may not want to vote or doesn't feel like their vote doesn't matter this primary?
I would be surprised if people don't know that it's impacting them now. I know that they probably don't realize all of the impacts, but affordability is a thing. I drive a pickup truck, and I know that's horrible, but um, I put in $101 worth of gas to fill the tank the other day. Like, you feel it at the pump, you feel it at the supermarket, you feel it at all these different places that you just go and have to go to live, right? And I think that people are seeing that. I think that people are feeling the healthcare cuts. There's been a lot of conversations. I have a friend who is recently, like in the last year, disabled and in a wheelchair now. And we've been fighting for, I don't know, just so she could live, right, and survive. And I go and I tell her story a lot of places. She knows this and she's fine with it. But when I talk to people about her struggle, what I get back from people is not, oh, doesn't she have family? Oh, that's not political. What I hear is they tell me another story. Like, people, unfortunately, we're finally at that boiling point where enough people are suffering that it's no longer as removed. I think people are starting to see the actual suffering and what the government can and cannot do, like right there in their faces. Not saying everywhere, but I'm saying that I think that that's one of the positives of such a bad situation, is that it's hard to ignore.
Yeah, I hear you. And Ivy, what would you say to those who say, "Hey, my vote doesn't matter. They don't represent me," or why should I vote? What would you say to them?
Um, well, I look right at, the immediate impact in my life too. I mean, coffee is $5 more than it used to be. And that's just some store brand. You know, it used to be $15. Now it's $20 for a can. And that's like the big economy pack. The gas, you know, I drive pickup as well. Shame on me. But you know, a truck is a useful thing. Um, and yeah, it's way more expensive to fill it up now. And healthcare, the premiums on you know all insurance policies are going up, and it's covering less. And um, there people that we know are struggling more and more every day. And um, I used to talk a lot about how, you know, your local elections have more of a direct day-to-day impact on your life than the national elections, but I feel like that's becoming less and less true. It's getting now to where the big national elections, you know, for Congress and for the president, and they're having a bigger impact because of the direction that things have gone. I think that if somebody were to say that they weren't going to vote because it doesn't really impact their life, I would start asking them about the ways that their life has changed recently in the last few years, and then start picking apart, you know, well, not picking apart, but like, you know, figuring out why, you know, why are those changes happening? What is that change? What does that change really boil down to? Because it does affect your life. So your vote does matter. I know it's easy to lose hope and feel like it doesn't matter, but it does matter.
Yeah, I agree 100%. And I really appreciate you all coming and talking about this. It's important. The primary in New York State for, you know, the Democrat in the local areas is, you know, June 23rd, Tuesday. So, you know, hopefully everyone goes out and vote. And, you know, hopefully we can get more people out to vote too. I mean, I really wish we could have more civic engagement from my generation and younger. Well,
Well, thank
thank
you
you
for
and have a
doing this.
wonderful day.
Yeah, thank you for doing this and helping get the word out, because I think that's where it starts. People talking to
Thanks.
people.
Thanks. Have a great
Exactly.
day.
Thank
Bye.
you. Bye.
I